Welcome back. You know how much I love talking about our next, how the longer we live, the more we get to do, and the greater opportunities we have to add value in so many different ways. And our next guest is just the brightest example of that. Marci Holzer was writing for national brands and hotels and industry. She was doing branding work. And then 9/11 hit, and she found herself documenting histories and people's stories. And she did it through scrapbooking, so images and items that people held dear. And then when her own mother passed very young, she realized that she didn't leave anything to tell her story. So Marci made a different pact, and she promised to leave stories for her children and her grandchildren, and in the process created a way with words. So now she helps other people document their stories, tell their stories, publish their stories. And she's got an amazing, rich history that she's going to share with us here today. Marci, thank you so much for joining us on Good Day.
And thank you so much for having me. And it is a good day.
It's always a good day, and it's especially good day when I get to do this. So thank you for coming on. And please, I loved your story when we first met. Our connection was obvious. We love telling stories. We love helping people live into their best selves. You've done so much more than I could even tell in an introduction. So give us a little bit of your history.
Well, I grew up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania with my high school sweetheart, who I'm still with. And unfortunately, both my husband and myself lost our mothers at young ages. My mom was 51, his mom was 44. And they left no written journal, thoughts, anything of a document, maybe some recipe cards, perhaps, but in their own handwriting, that would have given us a glimpse into what their youth, their teenage years, their married life, their careers, if they had them, being a mom, unfortunately for Ron's mom, not being a grandma, but my mother, yes, what those feelings were like. So after 9/11 happened, I felt compelled. I was an empty nester at the time. That was the word that was used when your youngest went off to college. And I thought to myself, geez, empty nest, that sounds so negative. It sounds like your womb is empty. There's no chapter left. Your life is, you formerly knew it, has ended. You're an empty nester. So, because my husband was a successful businessman and I always had a career writing for these companies that you had mentioned, doing branding, writing. I never really carved my own niche in the world. So I decided to open a scrapbook store. It was called Fine Art Scrapbooking. And it was the height of that craft era when back in the day you would actually go, not to the cloud, but to a Walgreens or a kiosk and pick up your photos in a cardboard envelope. You would come then into my store and by section, bridal, travel, sports, um, find different embellishments, papers, what have you, to go home and make a beautiful scrapbook. It could be for an anniversary, for a grandparent celebrating 50 years. It could be a child's sports career. It could be a wedding gift. And what I had come to learn was that the scrapbook page is artistically done as they can be. And I tried to have some great examples around my store of what those scrapbook pages could look like, embellished. They didn't tell the story. So while there could be a great picture of a Halloween party, it didn't give the details. Or if there was a great picture of, for instance, I took a picture of my mother's high school yearbook picture, and I imagined the love letters that my father would have written to her. I don't have any of those love letters. She never saved any of those. So my goal with A Way with Words was to let just ordinary people know that their lives are extraordinary. You don't have to be famous to have a story. We each have our own story. We have values that we cherish. We have memories that we cherish. And as we're getting older, and I'll speak for myself, I'm 68, I can't remember sometimes where I put my keys or my sunglasses, and I realize they're on top of my head. So I want for my children and my grandchildren and future generations to know those thoughts that have been circulating in my mind over these many years. And my writing background gives me that platform to tell other people's stories in a way that's very interactive, very cathartic, and very fulfilling, both I think for the client as well as for myself, because I learn a lot by helping people tell their truth. And sometimes I say it's good, sometimes it's bad, sometimes it's ugly, but ultimately the client decides what they want in that story and what voice they want it told in. Do they want it told first person? Do they want it told third person? And we go back and forth with that process. And it's a very rewarding process. And it's something that I am glad I'm dedicating this chapter of my life to.
It's very exciting. And I know I'm looking at your backdrop in your office where you're sitting right now. You're obviously a super creative, and you've done work with interiors and scrapbooking. I mean, lots of art, creativity in raising your family and living your own life. And it shows, and it feels like you have, with every stage, taken that leap into, well, let's try this and let's try that. And so your own story would have the same kind of documentation process. And I absolutely love the name A Way with Words. I think I mentioned this to you. Like, it's one thing to have a way with words in terms of expression, but what you're really doing is creating people's journey, their way through their words. And that is incredibly beautiful on a very, very deep level. So when you come, to a new client or a new opportunity, a new project, how do you start?
I'm sort of old school. I break bread. I invite them to a meal, and it's usually at a restaurant. Sometimes it could be on my balcony that overlooks the ocean here in Fort Lauderdale. And we just established a rapport, a comfort level where I become a trusted advisor because I am now the keeper of family secrets and family stories. It could be something as simple as a recipe, or it could be as complicated as a holiday dinner that went amiss because somebody said something out of turn and it was taken the wrong way and a family broke up because of it. So these stories are powerful. And I want the client to know that they can trust me like a vault to keep those stories sacred. And so my work isn't on Amazon, it's not on bestseller lists, but it is given, for instance, to a bridegroom from his grandmother instead of wedding goblets, which I believe she still did give that were on the registry. What was the memories this young boy had going to the Jersey Shore from Dallas for 18 summers? Or the story I'm working on now that's a third generation Christmas tree farmer that growing up in Chicago, they had pumpkin lots, Christmas tree lots, and then they decided to be the growers to control the supply chain and be responsible for the quality of the Douglas fir Christmas tree that's in every parking lot across America.
Wow.
The current one also is an 85-year-old, actually 87-year-old, I correct myself, ballroom dancer. She's four husbands. That in itself is a story. But she dances 3 nights a week and donated a ballroom for first responders and EMT workers so that they could take ballroom dancing lessons to lighten the load of the heaviness that they see every day and the trauma they have to deal with. So the initial response to your question is I like to get to know them as a friend. And they become not clients, they become friends. It is a friendship that forms.
And I know when you start a project, you choose your book because you're, like you said, old school. You're going to do it in handwriting and in notes and very, very tactile and tangible, which is something that I completely relate to. It took me a very long time to give up my paper calendars. I really struggled with.
I do, I can show you mine. It never jives with my phone calendar. That's my problem. I'm working on it.
I needed to touch it and feel it and see it and be able to move stuff around and color code it. And until the electronic calendars could do that for me, it took me a very long time. But when I saw your array of journals and notebooks and how you cover them specifically to relate to each person's story and how it really starts from that first moment, it just touched my heart. I mean, just the stories you just told were giving me goosebumps. I had to really take a deep breath, especially on the ballroom story. That's amazing. But these are stories that people are publishing. Who are they sharing it with? You're not doing it on Amazon. You're not doing it for the money, so to speak. This is not seeking fame through storytelling.
Correct.
So
It
what are they
is
doing it for?
it is for the person that wants to leave a legacy. And it's funny we talk about, you bring up such a good point, Lauren. Eye calendars. I do believe our photos are in the cloud somewhere. But what is not in the cloud are the sepia tone photographs of your great great grandparents, maybe coming from another land to Ellis Island. They're not the Polaroids of the 60s, early 70s that our parents captured of our youth that are now fading. They're not the Kodak envelope pictures. They're on cameras that we've changed 10 times over, new cell phones, new technologies, flip phones to, whatever's coming out, Apple 17. Good luck trusting the cloud when that grandson is getting married to show you and explain his great great grandmother's life coming from Yugoslavia, Israel, Russia, Ireland, Germany, wherever. Because if we lose our history, I do believe we are starting to lose even our humanity. We are starting to lose that connection, family member to family member. Forget even the larger family out there, your neighbor, your person that you meet randomly at an event. I feel that having a tangible document, and people sometimes make enough copies for their immediate family. They'll hand them out at Christmas. They'll hand them out. This one client, she's going to do it for a 75th birthday present. The Christmas tree family I was referring to. She decided for her 75th birthday, she wanted to give her children and grandchildren. So that will probably be a distribution of about 11 copies. And it can come with or without photos. I truly, coming from the scrapbook world, and back in the day when I would accompany photographers around the country to photograph high hotels where the photographer was capturing the image, I'd be writing what the restaurant was going to enhance your meal experience and what great room features the room had. I've learned what a good picture looks like. So my sort of hobby is taking these pictures. And I think I've become a little more astute about what I capture. And I offer that as an option if people want to have pictures included in the story. And it does enhance the story. And the story is actually a story. I'm a storyteller. When my little kids were babies and toddlers, and sure, you could read a Mother Goose or, Three Little Pigs. And I did, but they remember the stories that I made up under the covers in bed, just my imagination running wild. And they were always the characters with their names changed, but each child knew I was talking about them. And so I think the art of storytelling is a beautiful thing because everybody can write facts. You could probably go on ChatGPT and say, I was born in 1957. What happened that year? And sometimes I will use technology for details, like the story I'm writing about the Christmas tree farm client. I knew she was devoted to music and theater, and she sings in the church choir, and it's an important part of her life. And she's in the Carolinas to the Dolly Parton Imagination Project, which allows young preschool kids to get books every month free at their home delivered. So I Googled Sound of Music. And then I learned it got X amount of Academy Awards, and it was written when she was 15 years old. And her story starts out something like it starts at the very beginning. It starts with ABC, Do, Re, Mi. That gave me the inspiration by doing that little deeper dive into Google Chat. But I do not write using chat or artificial intelligence. To me, it's a form of cheating. Just, I don't know.
You even mentioned, and I know you have a book of words, which
No,
would be, Google or chat before there was such a thing as Google or chat.
this
So
is true. This is true. I am a geek. I think in college, one of my favorite things was highlighting whatever the assignment was with the old school markers, highlighters, and I still have a stack of them. And when I'm reading a good book on the hardcover book, or the internet allows you to do that too on iPad, I highlight those words or even the storylines for like a group. I belong to couple different group books, and I just I like words. I think words matter. And I think when we send tweets and texts and things like that, sometimes we're not weighing those words carefully enough because oftentimes they're misinterpreted, which is why what we're doing today, and you're hearing my voice, you're seeing my eyes, I'm seeing yours, I'm hearing your voice. When you go to a restaurant now and everybody is just looking at their phone and they're not looking at each other and they're not connecting, my fear is that we are losing that human connection, which goes back to the point of losing our humanity. And I see it eroding, slipping away little by little. And if that is my mission in life and that's what I can contribute, gosh, I feel like that's a chapter worth writing.
you know what? You're absolutely right. And as you pointed out to me earlier, words are sacred and we need to be very careful how we choose them. But we also need to know how to use them to make them last. And with that thought, let me ask you, how can people find out more? Where can they find you? How can they work with you?
So I'm not a huge social media person. I have a Facebook page. Um, I have a website, um, Marci at awaywithwords.com. My business card is actually a typewriter. I know I'm not supposed to leave my desk here, but so it is, your story is worth telling because that is my tagline. And it is Marci at away ww, which is an abbreviation for withwords.com. And the website is www.awayww.com. And then you can see a little bit about my history.
Perfect. I'll make sure we put that up on the screen. I know our viewers are going to want to know more. What you're doing is sacred. What you're doing is a gift. And thank you so much from someone who loves to tell stories and also believes that our history needs to be remembered. I'm so grateful for all that you're doing for everyone. So thank you so much for joining us. And we'll look forward to hearing from you again.
And I appreciate all the time you took in making this a topic that you thought needed covered. So, from the bottom of my heart, Lauren, I say thank you right back to you.
Thank you. We'll be right back.